And we are live.
Let's see. I need to turn it on my phone too.
Yes.
I can see things.
I always have to check. Oh, we're live.
With one
Yeah.
disc.
Hey, everyone. Hello, hello, hello.
I'm so
Pull up the
excited.
chat. Let's see. You got it pulled up?
Yep. For once, I have the chat pulled up and it looks normal.
Yay. I don't even know where to begin. I feel like we have some.
We should probably start with Miss Obama.
Really?
That should start this topic because we should do a lot of clearing up first, and then that could be a wonderful segue to all the other drama.
Okay. So
re-spark this whole conversation again anyway.
Okay. So I feel like a lot of, well, let's introduce you for those that, for whatever reason, don't know who you are.
I know I look pretty basic right now because Houston is cold.
Is it?
Yeah, we dropped down to like the 40s and 30s today. I don't know what's going on. But I'm melanin eclectic. I do book reviews and a lot of planner videos. And sometimes I throw makeup in there. And then now I've kind of just started joining these live chats to have great discussions. And I'm ready for today.
I see with your head wrap, you are ready.
My hair is currently being conditioned underneath this. So that's another honest moment.
The struggle is real. I was going to wash my hair and then I was like, I need a good 48 to 72 hours for this process. And I'm not ready right now.
I didn't look at the time when I started and I was like, oh, head wrap it is. Awesome.
And for those of you who are, new to my channel, I'm Ochuole. Welcome to OhSheReads. And for those of you that are not new, hey, welcome. Welcome back. And so let us begin. So you wanted to talk about Michelle Obama first?
Yeah, because, Booktube was mad again.
But it was book Twitter, and that's my thing. I feel like book Twitter starts a lot of, I'm not on book Twitter, so I can't speak.
I'm not either.
We are not the people to be speaking on
this. Yeah, I didn't know what was going on until I got the text, and I was like, who mad at Michelle and why?
And then, to preface, Troy Nicole from Nicole's Book Corner was supposed to be a part of this live, but she is just dealing with some family stuff right now. So definitely send her a lot of love and prayers and positive vibes. And definitely you can go check out her channel. I will leave a link in the description box after this live, so you can go check out her channel and just send her a lot of well wishes. But yes, she's the one who actually brought this little tidbit of drama to our attention, because she is very, well, not very, that's a misnomer. She is on book Twitter. I don't think she's very active, but she is on there. Yeah, so that's where she kind of heard about this, and then she brought it to our attention, and now we're here.
Yep. I'm tired of this conversation.
So for those that are unaware or are not on book Twitter whatsoever, basically there was this discussion, or I don't even know what it was, where people were getting very angry because they heard that Michelle Obama is going to be doing, I think at some point this month, if not like next week or sometime, I'm not sure when, but at some point this month, she is going to be having like a live panel discussion. And some of the bigger booktubers were invited to join the conversation. And I guess book Twitter was very angry because there were no booktubers of color, and specifically any Black booktubers or mixed, biracial, whatever, invited to join the panel. And so there was this outrage. I mean, I call it fake outrage, but it's fine. I will just be honest and say that I did not see the tweets. I did not see the discussion. So I don't want to speak so much to that part of things, of what was actually going on book Twitter, because like I said, I'm not on book Twitter, so I don't know. But I did want to talk about just the misinformation of it and how people just got all up in arms, because Brittany and I actually looked into it and we discovered that, okay, yes, they did invite the two big booktubers they didn't fight are white booktubers. Ariel Bassett from, I don't remember the name of her channel.
Yeah, I just know isn't she the one that started Booktubeathon?
Yes, she's one of the founders of Booktubeathon. And then Jessie from Jessie the Reader, which I enjoy both of their channels, so I don't have issues with that. And then they also invited two Black women from outside. Well, one is a YouTuber, not a booktuber. I don't know how to, if I'm pronouncing her channel name right, but it's Josie, right?
Yeah, like I watch her pop culture videos and like
I subscribe to her too.
Yeah, like I enjoy her.
I love her videos. So she was invited, and then Francesca, I'm blanking on her last name.
Ramsey. She's big on MTV. She does all of those like FYI kind of videos. And then she also has a podcast with her husband. And she's also known for hosting a lot of events like this.
And I think she has a book out as well. So she was invited as well. So when I actually looked into it and did the research, I really don't understand why people are so upset.
Because specifically a Black booktuber was not picked, basically.
But we've been through this, and we already know that they go with the numbers. And right now, I think the biggest Black booktuber is what? Naya Reads and Smiles.
Yeah, she's our biggest.
So I don't know. I just didn't think there was anything to be upset about in this particular instance. I felt, like I said, I felt like it was fake outrage. And I feel like, did anyone, once again, I can't speak to the conversation that was on book Twitter, but because I didn't read it and I don't care to, but from what I heard, I'm just like, did anyone actually look into this and do research and see that they actually tried to be pretty diverse and inclusive with the panel? Girl, those are my thoughts on it.
Well, I think it's also because we made the decision after the Hate You Give thing to just not care about this kind of stuff anymore. So when we heard about it, we were like, okay, I mean, if this is what went down, how is this different from any other situation? Like, this will not ruin my sleep. I will not stop what I'm doing for this. Like, no, I will not protest. No, I will not voice any type of concern about it because, like, this always happens.
And I will be watching the panel. Like, I want to watch the panel.
It's Michelle Obama. I'm super biased. I will be watching this panel. If there was a way that I could like tweet in my questions, I would be there, very active. So, but I also think that another thing was they felt like they wouldn't be able to get real questions because, you know, she speaks a lot about race and, you know, what it's like being a Black woman. So maybe the outrage came from the fact that it wouldn't be a real discussion because they would only focus on certain points. So.
Yes, but at the same time, I feel like Michelle Obama is very much about inclusivity. Like, that is her thing. Like, yes, Black women empowerment, but also just women's empowerment in general. And she's very inclusive, and she's very much about teaching women, period, across the board, how to dominate in male-dominated spaces and places where women are meant to feel uncomfortable. As a Black woman, does she have a unique perspective? And is she, you know, very, very powerful and inspiring because she's managed to overcome all of these hurdles because of her race? Absolutely. And I would love to have some questions that speak to that. And I would love to have her perspective on that, even a little bit more. We did get a little bit in the book, but, you know, not as much. But I almost feel like, I don't know, I just feel like people just be looking for reasons to be mad at this point when it comes to the whole diversity discussion on Booktube. I feel like we had an amazing dialogue towards the end of 2018 where we all came together and we all just banded together and we were like, this is not okay. We're going to make strides to change that. And so many amazing things came out of that, like Blackathon and just people, different booktubers standing up and giving shout outs to booktubers of color across the board. Like, I found out about like Indian booktubers I didn't know were there. Like,
me too.
Like so many, you know, and I was Middle Eastern booktubers I didn't know. I was like, oh wow, okay. So I felt like there was a great discussion. I feel like strides were made. And then we all kind of, like you said, we all just decided we are not going to rant and rave about this anymore. We need to take action. We've had this critical discussion. It's been great. We've analyzed our community. what steps can we can we make moving forward? And let's stop just crying wolf about this and actually just do stuff to make this better. That's where my mind is at. So when I heard about that, I was just like, Ochuole.
Yeah.
I can't.
It's like the comments, let's see, some comments say, Booktube's like having the same conversations on loop. Oh, that's so true. We do stay on a loop.
Oh, we do. Girl, because when I made a video about it, I was just like, I'm tired.
Yeah, well, because I watched that video and that's what made me not want to make a video, because I was like, I'm with you. I'm done. Like, I've never felt like I needed to validate myself. I'm not going to start today. And plus, we started a book club after this.
Yes.
I feel like
we good.
Yeah, it's like, you want representation, join the book clubs. There have been plenty of new book discussions that pop up every month now. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of Booktube discussions with a variety of different nationalities and races.
Yeah.
If you want to be outraged, if you're not joining in on these particular groups, you're just being outraged for the sake of being outraged.
Yes.
Like, do something or hush.
That's how I feel.
Like,
it's like people that don't vote and then they want to complain about the political climate of our nation. And I'm just like, but you don't go to the polls.
It's like, just telling me you're outraged because a Black person isn't on TV doesn't make me feel better. And it will never make me just
no
doing to fix this. So.
But yeah, so that's that. Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to discuss is I saw Little Wolf Reads on Mayana's video about diversity, and so for those that didn't see the video, in a nutshell, she basically just said that she had a really tough time during Black History Month because she didn't really read that many Black History Month appropriate type books, but the few books that she did read really moved her emotionally because we had Black characters that were existing as themselves and not going through some type of traumatic experience. And how she's tired of reading about these traumatic types of experiences and historical things that have happened, in our communities across the diaspora. And she's just kind of like, I don't want to always be in that emotional place. Every time I pick up a book that has Black characters, I would like to have more diversity even in that category of, oh, here's a book with Black people in it, just more diversity. And I thought that it was an interesting video. It was very emotional, and definitely my heart went out to her, and I understood a lot of what she was saying, especially because a lot of what she was saying we'd talked about previously in a live that I had done last year. So I wanted to know your thoughts on this. We have a lot of thoughts on this that have gone on in our group chat. That was why I wanted to do this live, because I was like, this is everything that we've been discussing for like a month.
I feel like, while they're writing their comments, I'm going to just be the one to take the bullet and this one statement. And I know it's going to cause so many problems, and it's fine, but I do not ever want to read another book like The Hate You Give ever in my life. Like, I'm tired of the trauma porn. I'm good, love. I see it on the news every day, and then you give me a whole book where it's like sympathizers, basically, and I'm just reading the book like, so triggered. Like, was it a good book? Probably so. Will I be reading any more books that only present my people in a manner of that trauma? No. Because we do so many other things. Can I get a book about a single Black woman who just graduated college and like just moved out to the city? Can I get a contemporary novel that fits that kind of narrative? Because those exist.
They do. And it's a fine line, right? Because books like The Hate You Give are very important, because there are people that are very ignorant to these things, or whether that's by choice or just based upon the way that they grew up and their environment. They're just ignorant to it, period. And so books like The Hate You Give being made parts of curriculums in public schools and being talked about on Booktube and being hyped and being on the New York bestseller list it's a very fine line, because for those on the outside looking in, it's kind of like living in a glass house and people finally like looking into your house and seeing what you're experiencing, and they're like, oh, that's what you're going through, I had no idea. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like getting a peek into the reality, whereas the people who are actually in that glass house are like, this ain't nothing new, like this is my life, like this is, you know, this is a part of my reality. So on one hand, I understand the importance of books like that. On the other hand, because it's such a harsh reality, it's not something that I would want to include in my regular reading. Like, it's like, I want to support the author, but I don't necessarily want to read books like that in my free time, because reading is a hobby and it's done for my enjoyment. So,
ooh, Left on Read made a very important comment that I was going to say. She said her review of The Hate You Give was not really favorable because I believe it was written for non-Black people.
It was.
Kind of like, here's a glimpse of this life without the full picture.
It was.
Like, this book isn't for me. Yep, that's how I felt.
That's why I gave it 3 stars. Like, I remember on one video I was talking about like books that disappointed me, and I mentioned The Hate You Give, and so many comments were like, why didn't you like The Hate You Give? And I never answered it, because that is a very touchy, I was like, I'm glad you took that bullet, Brittany, because I didn't want to.
I don't care. You know, they don't really like remember me as a booktuber, so I don't have to worry about them coming for me. But yeah, I just was like, I'm going to say it because I like reading fantasy. I like reading books where like we succeed. I'm just trying to understand why I got to read a book about a young Black boy getting shot and the cops blaming him for it. Like, I think I watched that same story on the news like 12 times before this book came out. Like,
I know. I just felt like
it's not good enough. But the book is okay.
Yes. You know, and I was like, this book was not for us, and rightfully so, because why would it be for you when it is something that is your reality?
Yeah, and not a positive reality at that. Like, we're not talking about like family reunions and like college degrees. No. We're talking about just murder.
Oh gosh. And oh God, it's such a touchy thing. And I honestly just want to take this opportunity to be honest, because I feel like a lot of times when you're a person of color, you have to tiptoe around landmines of truth, because you don't want to, quote unquote, offend people by the words that you're saying, because sometimes when we speak on our experiences, people feel like they're being cornered or like they're being attacked.
Yep.
Based off of the fact that they don't have that similar experience and they cannot imagine that experience. And so there's a weird guilt that comes in, I think, especially in America. I can't speak for Black people who live throughout the diaspora, like in France or England or in any of the island nations or any other country. I can't speak for them, but I feel like what I've experienced in America is there's this weird tension where we and other people of color, I can't speak for them because I can speak vaguely for them, tiptoe, right? It's like, oh, don't want to say that. I'll say this half truth. I'll paint it in this pretty picture. I'll say half of the truth and not say the rest. And that's what The Hate You Give was.
Yep.
It's like, I'm going to give you this harsh reality, but not really. I'm going to touch on it a little bit, but I'm going to back off because I don't want to offend you. I'm trying to make this a little bit more palatable for you. But even in me making it more palatable, you see how horrible it still is. But oh, it's like this weird tiptoe around these landmines of truth, because you're trying to deliver the message without offending the people you're trying to deliver the message to. It is the weirdest dance. And unless you've experienced it and unless you've walked around in our shoes, it almost can't even be put into words, because it's a weird sort of psychological thing that we just have to learn from day one to figure out. That's all I'm going to say on that. I don't even know if that made sense.
I mean, I understood what you meant, but I don't know how to put that into, I think you said it well. Yeah, because I can't think of a way to put that. Because I'm literally tiptoeing around it right now in my head. So
even just trying to express it so other people can understand it is very difficult. So that's why that's another reason why I wanted to have this live, because I think that it's still important to try to express it, because communication is everything. And if we can open up the doors of communication in a way where people can truly come to this table and to this live and with an open mind and hear what hear what we're saying, and not necessarily having to understand it, but at least hear it. And I feel like the more these types of conversations are had, the better we'll be, even in our little corner of Booktube, you know?
I mean, also, I would like to say that, like, I would like for us to stop waiting for somebody to write a nice book about it for you to accept that it's reality.
That's
Let's have
true.
this discussion when it's on the news. Let's not have this discussion when it's on a New York bestsellers list. Like, it's the same thing. It's just that all the nice parts are there. It's like, why we gotta wait for a book? This just happened, like, on the news.
Yes.
We'll talk about it then. But now you want to have all these discussions about it now because it's in a book. It's like,
because honestly, it kind of reminds me of when I was in theater school, and a lot of times we talked about how important art is. In our case, we were specifically talking about the art of acting and the art of theater, but art across the board, even just writing, painting, music, is important because it allows you to convey a message in a way to people where they are more able to digest it, because they can't digest the news. They can't digest the newspapers. If it's not in your face and it's not your actual personal reality, there's a disconnect and there's a dissonance there. But a lot of people can go to the theater and see a play about someone's experience and easily digest it, and something clicks for them and they understand it, or hear a piece of music or hear poetry or whatever it is, or see a piece of art and feel something, and that connects. It's like a left brain, right brain connection. There's a connection, there's an emotional connection where you're like, I get it now. And that's why art is so important. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate for art and artists. And that's why I say, like, okay, I don't want to read these types of books, but I will buy them and I will support the author.
Yeah.
I'll force myself to get through it, but I understand that this book will hit people and make people see this harshness in a way that a news article unfortunately can't. You wish that it could.
Yeah.
So
what's
going on in the chat? What's going on in the chat?
Interesting.
Let's see. Booktube, if someone comes out and doesn't like a book, they have an explosion in the comments, and it isn't always constructive. But Booktube keeps saying we want to be able to talk about these things, and then screams at people to shut up for saying things they don't want to hear. That's true.
Hence why we were debating on even talking in the first.
Girl, before y'all, let me just tell you that before this live even went live, I already had one dislike.
Right. I forgot to say, did we mention that we already had a dislike on the video before we even went live?
Just from the title alone, and just, I checked on it earlier today just to make sure everything was good, and I saw that there was a dislike. And I'm not going to lie and not say that I had a sinking feeling in my stomach. And I was like, do we need to cancel this? Because I'm not trying to stir up anything. I don't want any crazy response videos from people going nuts and stuff like that. Like, I'm not trying to, that's not what this is about. And I was just like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to do this. We about to cancel.
Yeah.
To cancel this.
I would not have even been mad if you had canceled, because it was like, look, somebody is going to come on here, take one sentence that we say and turn it into like this epidemic of like, oh,
And the thing is, you always have that small population of people that feel that we're complaining, or, you know, I don't even know what they say. But to that I say, or more specifically, they say, oh, okay, here we have the Black booktubers complaining again or whining again or whatever the case may be. But to that I say, I'm not opposed to watching like the Indian booktubers come together and have a discussion like this, the Asian booktubers, the mixed race booktubers. I want it to happen too. Like, I'm not opposed to having something like that. Or Carry the Book Bell, I think last week or a couple weeks ago, had a whole diversity panel with a booktuber from almost every single different race, nationality, gender that you could imagine, and everyone just came together and shared their thoughts. And I'm just like, great.
It just means that we can do this. It's totally possible. Just people have to understand that not everybody's opinions are the same, and it doesn't make you wrong to have a different opinion, and that's okay.
And you're not speaking for your entire community, demographic, city, race, whatever.
Yeah, just like, calm down, girl. I just said what I was thinking. Like, you don't have to think how I think, I promise. Free thinks. Let's do it.
Yes. Let's see.
The issue with Booktube is that they don't have general rules or a dogma to follow. It exploded too fast without rules, and some expressed their expectations for how they think Booktube should be, and when people didn't confirm, they all got their knickers in a twist. First of all, I like using the word knickers in a sentence. I should just say that.
I know. That's got to be a new. We're about to start using that word.
Yep.
I mean, I have been watching Booktube since nearly its inception, in the sense that Booktube literally just used to be people showing off their books and book reviews. Book hauls, book wrap-ups, and book reviews. Those were the three staple videos. That's all it really was. And as it grew and expanded, you know, and publishing companies started to take notice of it, money came into play, marketing came into play. Of course, stuff is going to change. But then you also have people that are coming out with more creative videos, skits, all sorts of things. So I don't think that there is a rule about it. I do agree that people get offended when their prescribed formula is broken and they're like, this is not what this community used to be. This community used to be so nice and pleasant.
Grow, and with growth comes trolls.
Exactly. And it's just kind of like, well, you know, expansion comes with change, and things are going to change. And the more people you get opening up Booktube channels, and they're going to bring their uniqueness to it, they're going to bring who they are to it, and it's going to be something more and something different. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but people do get mad about that. They're like, this community has changed so much. And I'm just like, what were you expecting? But, oh, did you want to say something?
I'm trying to think. I was like, can I think of anything else that related to that? No, I think we covered that nicely.
Well, we wanted to talk about the fact that when you only read the popular books, it does look as if there aren't enough Black representation in books, because to me, I think there's a lot. It's just from authors that are not as well known, and they may be independent authors, they may be authors from overseas, but there are a lot of authors that are writing things outside of that trauma storyline, and they're writing about just normal people, normal Black people doing normal things, being in fantasy, science fiction, adventure stories, love stories, whatever you want to call it. Those stories are out there, and those writers are writing them. Either have already published them, or they're writers now that are writing them. Like, I'm beta reading a couple novels, and it's happening. So I'm just kind of like, I feel like we are in such a weird bubble here on Booktube where only the most popular books get talked about, and you have to go out of your way to find booktubers that are talking about books that aren't as popular, talking about authors that are not as well known and as overhyped or even hyped at all. So you have to kind of go out of your way to find those books, and you have to do your own research. So I did want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody wants a list of Black authors, you can literally look at the front cover of Black Enough, and there's like a whole list of Black authors. Like, it's all literally, these are all Black authors, every single one of them.
Yeah.
So if you want a place to start, read this book and then read their work.
Absolutely. There are a lot of authors out there. I know a lot of independent authors and authors that belong to smaller publishing houses and companies. They're doing their own thing, writing fantasy, writing science fiction. I know a lot of authors writing romance, because that's like my genre that I'm comfortable with and familiar with, is the romance genre. So I could give you a plethora.
That's you.
I know. Not everyone is down with that.
But yeah. Let's see. Popular books get talked about because some of the bigger tubers are sponsored to do it. People have to pass an opinion on when you try to express yourself every time, and that scares the crap out of oneself.
Look at us, PG.
Hey, my mom might be watching this, you know? Hi, Mom.
Oh, hey. Oh my gosh. Hey, Troy. Okay, she had something to say. She says, I think the problem with diversity is not every Black person, Latino, etc., will have the same feelings on every single issue, so the community just explodes. Yes, I agree.
Is it the community that explodes, or is it the outside community trying to be allies that explodes?
That's a good question. Ooh, girl, you starting something.
I was like, I'm gonna just ask it, and then we can just ignore it.
We can just be like,
to that question, because I was like, well,
we can just tiptoe right around that landmine of truth.
If anybody in the comments wants to contribute to that answer, go ahead.
I know.
I said it before I thought about it, and then I was like, I am live.
I know. Because
I'm blaming Troy.
Troy started it. I'm putting the blame on you, Troy.
I blame Troy. But even then, just looking at the three of us, like, we have 3 different Black experiences. So it's like you could look at us and see how we respond to things. It's not exactly the same way, but we also don't freak out.
No. We like to hear from each other's perspectives, but at the same time, we're on the same frequency and wavelength, because as a whole, there are enough experiences that we have experienced. Okay, what am I saying? There are enough things that we have experienced that we have in common, where we have that common bond, where it's like, oh yes, I've been through that as well, or I've been through some form of that as well. So there's enough that we have experienced that is alike, that we can bond on that, and that keeps us on the same frequency and the same wavelength. But at the same time, there are other things that are different, just based on culture, where we grew up, things like that are different, that we can learn from one another and effectively listen to one another and really like be, oh, I didn't know that you felt that way, or okay, that's interesting. And it's not about attacking, and it's not about being angry to hear the other person's perspective. I think that it is a hard pill to swallow for people, not only within a minority community, but for those on the outside looking in that consider themselves allies. It's a hard pill to swallow that no community's experience is a monolithic one. You know what I'm saying? You can't look at all Black people across the entire world and say that it's a monolithic experience. You can't look at all Latino and Hispanic people and say it's a monolithic experience. All Asian people, Middle Eastern, Indian, etc. You know what I'm saying? There's just not possible. And not to mention the people of mixed race who are coming with 2 different races. Like, it's so much more intricate, and it's so much more complex than that. And it's just not possible to make everyone's experience the same just because they share the same phenotype or DNA strands. Like, it's not realistic. But I feel that because Booktube is such a small subset of society, people have a tendency to put us all in the same box. The Black booktubers, and we all get put under the same category. The Asian booktubers, they all get put under, it's very interesting and frustrating at the same time.
Right, because I feel like we all have something different, and
we're all very different.
We are. And that's how we're even able to have these kind of conversations in the first place, because we're so different.
Yes.
So it's just like, we all just happen to like reading books.
Exactly.
Which is actually something a lot of people don't expect us to do.
That's a whole nother conversation, girl.
That's a different chat. But that's what I'm saying. It's just like, you look at all the different aspects that makes this thing possible. It's just kind of think the best way to put this.
Girl, you tiptoeing around.
It's like, let's see. I'm gonna just read the comments. Let's see. I notice folks join in on conversations, not always because they believe in what is being discussed, but to show that they are good people because they agree.
Yes.
I think it's more so when people don't see you as people, they would assume everyone has the same experience.
That's very true.
Yep.
That is very true. It goes back to not really seeing you as a whole complex person. That is so true. And that is why it is incredibly important for these other authors who are writing stories with Black characters that are not the typical traumatic storyline that is about slavery or, genocides and all these horrific, things that, yes, okay, great. We need to get the truth out there. These stories need to be told, but so do the stories about Black engineers, Black
mothers,
astronauts, Black mothers,
families.
So many other experiences, even fantastical tales, and just so many other things that could be told, exemplifying Black love. Because I've also noticed in a lot of these popular trauma porn type stories, it's like, you didn't think I was going to do it, did you?
Since you're there, let's go.
They're scared to put two Black people together and show love between two Black people. And it's just something I've noticed. And I'm not sure if they're trying to appeal to, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're saying
if it is Black love, one of the parents is dead.
Wow. I never even realized that.
Like, if you look at it, even especially with the fantasy books, if you look, every single one of them has one parent alive and the other one dead, and they talk about how great that parent was. But they're never together in the same dynamic. So, one of those brilliant stereotypes that follows through in books, TV.
Wow.
TV.
That is very interesting. Wow.
Yeah, go back and think about some of the books that you read where it was two Black parents.
You're not wrong. It just hit me. And it's so many things run through my mind when I do pick up a book like The Hate You Give and I see like the interracial romance in there. It's not that I'm against that whatsoever. I read a lot of interracial romance and I enjoy them. It's just that I wonder why the author made that choice. Some of these Black women authors that write these young adult books are in interracial relationships themselves. So when I start following them on Instagram and stuff like that, it makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Cool. That is her reality and her experience. And she brought that into her novel. Brilliant, wonderful. But then others are not. And I just find it interesting because I always wonder what is so threatening about two Black bodies that are sharing like a romantic love connection in a book. And
in theory, parents were both dead.
Wait, what?
The book A Princess in Theory was delicious, but her parents were dead. And then somebody said, Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry is the only one I can think of that didn't do that. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry?
The book that scarred me as a third grader. Once again, more trauma.
What? And that's also a trauma book.
Girl.
Oh my gosh. Now I got to go back and think about all the books that I've read and try to find somebody with two alive Black parents.
I honestly, that is why I enjoy reading the love stories that I read by the Black authors that I read them by. And I know like not a lot of people enjoy romance as much as I do. But that's the joy I find in it, because I'm like, oh, two Black people falling in love. And look, their families are there too. And they're well off, or they're middle class, or even if they're struggling. Like, once again, it's not a monolithic experience, right? But there are various stories, various histories, various backgrounds. And a lot of times it is a two-parent family structure. And the families are strong and rich and varied. And it just brings me a certain type of joy that I'm not getting from mainstream media or mainstream publishing. And that's why I enjoy reading these off the beaten path books from smaller publishers or self-published authors. And that's why I will always forever continue to promote these books on my channel. And I feel like I'm one of the few that do, because I also watch other Black booktubers that also find writers that are less romance, more literature, like actual more literary books that are doing similar things. And so I follow them to get my literary recommendations. But it brings me joy. I'm like, yes, I'm not getting this from the Hollywood movies. I'm not getting this from the mainstream books. You know, I have to go search it out because they're not giving it to me. They're not going to give it to me. So I got to go look for it.
Right.
And I'm going to support those authors.
Serpentine Creative said, as a romance author, I can say it's mostly motivated by money. Interracial romance is the new trend.
Wow. I never thought about that, but I would not be shocked if that wasn't 100% true.
Yeah. No. All right. I mean, if I ever picked up a book where it was about somebody's grandmother raising them and it wasn't a trauma book, I would be so excited, because how many stories can we just, how many people can relate to being raised by their grandmother and
a lot.
It be a trauma story? Like, oh my gosh. Hey,
always
watching this, if you want to write a contemporary that hits that, or even a fantasy where grandma is like a G, I would read it. Like, I would love to have it to where the parental guidance is given from a grandparent.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great.
Just tossing out story ideas, aren't you?
Oh, Troy says Calling My Name has both parents.
Calling My Name. I need to look that up.
I'm about to say, who wrote Calling My Name? Let me add that to my Goodreads.
Yeah, look that up.
Yeah.
Lots of love, Deep Mala. Let's see. Sherry Maple says, my grandmother helped raise me while my parents worked. That's a lot too, because we have a lot of families where, okay, they were raised by the grandparents or a grandparent, but the parents were also there. Like, I know in a lot of African families and a lot of families from the Caribbean, I think this is even popular in Asian and Indian culture. Even when they come over to America or any type of westernized nation, the families live together. Like, you have the parents in the home, and you also have a grandparent or both grandparents, or even possibly both sets of grandparents there. And they help raise the children while the parents go to work.
Right.
I've heard that narrative a lot, but very seldom do I actually see it written out in literature.
Troy.
What did she say? I don't recommend the book.
I done looked it up. Let me just take this back. You know what? I'm gonna read it anyway, because I just want to see how they portray the Black family. But
I cannot.
You recommended or you said a book you don't even want to recommend. Okay.
Okay. We have some comments on this. Let's see. Stormy says, "Hey girl, I agree on the scarcity in Black couples in books. Like you said, I'm not against interracial romance, but sometimes I just want that raw, strong, intense romance." I agree. Let's see. Carol Brown says, I think she says, I was with my grandparents for a while when my father was constantly deployed. Ooh, that is a reality.
Good too. Yeah.
I Am Radiant Queen says, both my grandmothers lived with me. Let's see. Carol Brown continues, that went on for 4 years until they changed military deployment. And Sherry Maple says, my grandmother lived with us. They were from the South.
Yeah. It's like the only Southern stories we get are slaves.
And there's so much more.
Right. It's like
so much more.
Going to grandma's house was a treat. So I would like that to be depicted in a story at least once. I'm not a writer. If I was a writer, I would be writing down some ideas right now. But
I think what the problem is that writers, it's not that writers don't want to write these stories, is that writers want to make money and they want to be published. And a lot of times you have to bend to what's popular and bend to what people are reading and what's palatable to a widespread audience. So certain stories I highly believe get watered down or changed or edited or conformed in some way to please a wider audience, right? Like they say, oh, we got to make the story more diverse or more appealing to everyone. And so I think that's what happens when writers are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You want to write these stories that are in your heart, but you also at the same time want to be able to make a living and pay your bills and do it full time.
Yeah.
And once again, that's why I will always support independent authors and independent publishing houses, because those are the people taking the risks and they're doing it on their own dime. And there's no guarantee, right, that they will get the financial rewards in return. So that's why on my channel you'll hear me talking about them a lot, because I want to make sure that people know about them and people can go support them if they want and get their books.
I agree. I'm like, hey, y'all want to send us some books? We'll love to talk about them in our book club.
That's true. Bye,
Yeah.
Joy. Let's see.
Are there any other books like Terry McMillan's Waiting to Excel that explores the dynamic of friendships of Black women?
I honestly feel that that is a very unexplored storyline.
Yeah, there are no, I can't think of any girlfriend-esque novels that focus on that.
My issue is that it starts off as they're all being friends, but then it turns out that one person was really jealous of the other person and one person is a backstabber. There's always something negative that happens, and I will say that that is something that I do not enjoy about a lot of these indie authors' books that I read, is that it's very hard to find a group of Black women who are friends with one another and support one another equally, and there's no backstabbing going on, and there isn't going to be some weird twist where somebody throws someone else under the bus and the friendship circle unravels due to some type of treachery. That, and it's like, okay, they're writing for dramatic effect, and drama is what sells in certain genres, but it does get frustrating to read, because I hate when these types of stereotypes are glorified and, you know, are even more put out there. I'm just like, we already have this stereotype as Black women that we don't like each other, that we're mean, that we can't get along, that we tear each other down, and we don't support one another and all these things. And I hate when there are books with stories in them that reinforce these stereotypes. It drives me insane. I hate it.
I'm legit sitting here like, I can know some stories where they started off hating each other and then they became friends.
Oh,
but it's a group. I can speak on like a 2-person relationship, but I genuinely cannot think of any relationship that fits that. Ugh.
Or like it's not a toxic friendship where there's something strangely psychological going on. Like the toxic relationship in My Sister the Serial Killer. It's like, dang.
That's different. They both should be in jail.
Okay.
I will forever not change my thoughts on that. They both deserve to be in jail.
I would have to really think about that. And if I can think of any books, I will send you a private message or post it in the comments and let you know.
Yeah, I'm seriously sitting here trying to think. I can't.
You can't think of anything, can you?
No. And I read a lot of weird fantasy stuff too. So I'm like, how do I, like, there are friendships, but they're friendships that grow. They originally start off hating each other for very shallow reasons.
Really?
Yeah. Like, for example, Dread Nation.
Yes.
You didn't like her in the original because, you know, she's light skinned and she's goody good. So we're playing on the whole colorism thing.
And then they touch on that and how it is so amplified in so many of these books that it's
their favorite storyline.
Shocking.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, I was excited because Dread Nation, the main character, is supposedly darker, but light enough to get away with things. So, like, they literally were like, we're going to make her dark, kind of.
Never mind.
Like, man, we want her lovable. We want her likable. Like, ugh.
I feel like when writers fall back on the whole colorism thing, it's lazy writing, in my opinion, because it's very easy to depend on that stereotype of, oh, light skin versus dark skin, and these girls hate each other because she's light skinned and pretty, and this girl, like in My Sister the Serial Killer, she's light skinned and beautiful and standard of beauty, and she just stops traffic with her looks. And she's dark skinned and ugly, and no one can bear to look at her, and of course she's jealous of her sister. I feel like it's lazy writing because it's an easy cop out. It's an easy out. It's an easy way to build that conflict between two characters instead of actually delving in and finding a real conflict to build upon.
Yeah, like hate her because she did something to you.
Exactly.
She was born light skinned. Like, come on.
And it's not to say that these types of disagreements and emotions don't happen, because that is literally what the whole point of colorism is that it divides us based on that. But I don't like to see it being, I don't want to say uplifted, but I feel like the more you harp on something in your writing, it is being uplifted, it is being promoted.
Yeah.
It just drives me insane.
Or the attitude thing. If you're gonna make a Black girl who's confident in herself, why does she always have to have a bad attitude?
Or be a hoe.
Oh, I didn't want to go there, but yeah, she's always got to be somebody's side piece. Why? Why can she not have a normal, healthy relationship? Why does she always have to have some kind of major characteristic flaw?
Yes. And it's so interesting because it's so insidious the way they weave it into these storylines. And I can only say that because I've been reading a bunch of books recently that have enforced a lot of negative stereotypes. But because the stories are so well written and so entertaining, I'm continuing to read them. And I don't think the author is necessarily glorifying this behavior. She's basically just telling the truth about what goes on a lot in our community, which is really unfortunate. But it's still frustrating for me to read about because I'm tired of reading about it. But I lost my train of thought. It was bound to happen.
Yeah. I was like, oh.
I was talking about colorism.
And the difference.
Oh, yes.
The types of the Black women in storylines.
And I see a lot where dark skin equates to negative stereotypes and characteristics, and light skin equates to positive stereotypes and characteristics. And if dark skin does, or darker skin, I should say, does equate to positive stereotypes in any way, it's like a twist.
Yeah. Like, oh my gosh.
Or she has a positive attribute like longer, silkier hair, colored eyes, a finer pointed nose.
Marker that makes her different than regular dark-skinned girls.
It's like she's dark-skinned, but that's okay because she has hazel eyes and her hair is silky. I'm like, what am I reading?
Phones that, I'm like, what, bro? Can't she just be Black? Can she have 4C hair and have to take 3-4 hours to wash and detangle her hair? Can she do that? Can she deal with shrinkage? Can she do these things?
And I see the stereotype reversed in the male characters, where it's like he's light skinned, but he's a pretty boy. He's always licking his lips and posting up and dressed in the latest fashions. He's dark skinned and he's masculine and strong and aggressive and da 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 da. And it's like if the stereotype is flipped, if he's dark skinned and with the characteristics of a light skinned man, plot twist, what a shock. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, why are we ourselves, why are we writing these stories? Because it's not like white authors that are writing these stereotypes about Black characters. It's other Black authors. And I'm like, why are we reinforcing these stereotypes ourselves? Right. We don't need to do that to get people to read the books. Yes, okay, this is very dramatic and it's lazy. Like I said, it's lazy writing because it kind of excuses you from actually having to do real work and building conflict and actually building, like, you know, character interaction and dialogue. No, I'm just going to throw in a little colorism, throw in some of these stereotypes, and boom, I'm going to have a dramatic story. And I'm reading these books and I'm just shaking my head. So on one hand, I want to support these authors.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I do not want to support the generalization and the popularization of these stereotypes even more, especially when we're writing about ourselves. Like, I just feel like there's no excuse when we're doing the writing. We can be mad when other people are writing about us in that type of negative light, but when we're doing it ourselves, it makes me scratch my head. I'm like, why?
Like,
why?
Like,
I just have to vent.
Ooh, Stormy brought up a good thing. Y'all need to read A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. She has 4C hair and Allison. Yeah. So I actually highly recommend A Blade So Black. I loved it. She makes Sailor Moon references, cosplay.
Ooh, really?
However, her daddy is dead, so there is that whole thing.
we couldn't just have it all, could we?
Alice in Wonderland, like, reimagined thing, but she's a night walker, so she kills nightmares. Like, it's really cool. And she's definitely dark-skinned and deals with pulling her hair into a puff. So, not a ponytail, a puff.
Yes.
Like, yeah, but yeah, I do like that book. I am waiting for the sequel, but
I would say to add to my last, I hope, thing to add to the whole colorism thing is I just remembered when Troy was talking to us and she was saying that it's frustrating because people always assume that she's mixed.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's that other side of the coin where if you are lighter skinned, it's like you can't be black. One of your parents has to be white or another race. And it's like, what?
You have to be exotic. They have to find something about you that explains your beauty. It can't just be that you're black.
Yes. And she was frustrated because she said, you know, people are always asking her, what are you mixed with? You know, and she's always, I mean, she's offended by it. She's just like, nothing, I'm black. And they don't believe her.
Yeah, that's the part. It's like you ask, she told you, but that's not a good enough answer. Why? Why is that not a good enough answer? I need you to actually think about that because that's kind of problematic. She gonna make up something for you? Like,
I don't understand it. When even in my own family, like I have people that are very fair skinned, especially on my mom's side of the family. And I just shake my head. I don't get it.
Because we're in a assorted chocolate box, and only we refer to ourselves as an assorted chocolate box.
Let's see. Monty Price said, I started A Blade So Black, but had to return to the library. I was loving it though.
There's a sequel coming out. You must finish it.
Oh my God. I need to get this book ASAP.
It's so good. I'm not really a big Alice in Wonderland fan, so I like the fact that it's not like a direct retelling. It's definitely a completely reimagined world.
Yes.
It's still Wonderland. You still get tidbits, but I couldn't read this kind of Wonderland as a kid because I would have had nightmares.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because nightmares are created based on the things that humans experience. Okay. So, ironically, there is a fact that there was a young African American killed in that neighborhood, and it was causing her anxiety, which was creating the nightmares in Wonderland. So it was being from people's sadness and feelings and trauma, and that was manifesting into these monsters in Wonderland.
See, that's a very creative way to do the whole, to take that and twist it on its head, that whole trauma storyline. Why can't we have more of that?
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like you have the power to squash your own trauma, basically.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the sequel, though, because the ending, I was just sitting there like...
Who writes this book, again?
L.L. McKinney.
Who?
L.L. McKinney.
Okay. Yep. This is definitely going to be purchased by me by the end of this day.
Well, but it's definitely coming out, I think, in June or something. But it's definitely on my anticipated list. Since, you know, we're not going to get Children of Virtue and Vengeance until probably next year.
Amazon kept sending me that email like, oh, it's been pushed to June. Oh, it's been pushed to June.
She did a live and she was like, you know, I'm so sorry. And I was like, girl, now. Just pushed it to December last time. Stop playing with my emotions.
Honestly, I can only imagine the pressure she's under when you write when your first book blows up to that magnitude. That's got to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, she looks stressed out every time I look at, because I don't look at her stuff all the time because sometimes she be wilding. But when I go on there, she's talking about writing. She just looks so stressed out.
I feel really bad. As a writer, you know, your greatest wish is to have even a smidgen of that level of success. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie. I don't think that I would want my first published novel to blow up to be the point where almost anything that I would follow it would be a letdown in some ways.
Yeah.
It's a lot to live up to.
I pre-ordered it as soon as I finished.
Of course.
As soon as I finished the first book, I pre-ordered it. So I'm like this because I'm totally rooting for her because I do want this to be a great story. It's like Avatar meets Africa. So that's my life.
I mean, I had some issues with the first book and I do feel that it was very elementary.
Yes.
But so was elementary because I've read adult fantasy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely very dumbed down and watered down in some aspects. But at the same time, one part of me is like, well, that's to be expected. It's young adult fiction. And then the other part of me is upset because I do feel that young adult fiction doesn't need to be watered down, and that we don't give young adults the benefit of the doubt, and they actually are more intelligent than people give them the credit for, as well as that genre is read by more than just young adults between 13 and 17.
Which I always
is also read by adults.
17? Young adults is 13 to 17?
I think so.
Dude, why did I think that was just teen? Oh man. I mean, that explains a lot of things.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's,
because I agree with you. I still really liked it. It's just that there were certain points where I was like, all right, girl. Again, the story, the whole story itself was great. So I will not.
I liked it for the concept, for sure.
Yep.
That went a long way in my book. I do feel that the young adult genre in itself is a relatively new genre, because when I was growing up, we didn't have young adult. We just had like that in between. It wasn't children's and it wasn't adult. It didn't really have a title. But I remember reading books about suicide, depression. I remember reading books about very heavy topics and serious things. And the writers were not dumbing down the writing. The writing was very literary in style. And I remember oftentimes as a kid having to look up words in the dictionary after reading a young adult, even though it was a young adult book, because I wasn't quite sure what what the words meant. I was like, I need to look this up, or I need to figure this out. It gave me a lot of food for thought. And I feel like that doesn't really exist in that genre anymore. Writers are writing down.
Yeah. Ooh, Sherry just asked, has anyone read She Would Be Queen or King by Wayete Moore? Interesting that you bring that up, because that's our book club choice of the month.
Yes.
So, no.
Definitely go check us out on Goodreads, A Seat at the Table book club. Our book for the month is She Would Be King. We haven't had a chance to, I don't think we've updated it yet on Goodreads, but that is our book of the month. And we are reading that for, I've lost track. Are we reading that for February? No, we're reading.
Technically, we're reading that now.
Yes.
We talk about that on March 24th, I think.
Yeah, we'll be having a live show on March 24th to discuss the book. So, yeah, interesting that you mentioned that. We are very excited to get into it, although we're both mentally drained. What did you say, Brittany?
I said, I'm picking mine up from the library tomorrow, but I'm going to be very honest. I'm hoping that it's not a super intense read.
It will be.
I kind of want some feel-good reads right now, but it's okay. I'm going to read it for the sake of talking about it. So, Sherry, come back on March 24th so we can talk about it.
Yes. And I got the audiobook because I'm really enjoying audiobooks at the moment. And I'm excited to read it, but at the same time, I don't think that I'm in the mental headspace to take on such an epic and emotionally exhaustive read from what I've heard. But, you know, we got to do what we got to do for the book club.
Cool. All right. I'm mentally prepared. Emotionally exhausting book coming. Cool.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it's epic. I mean, it's talking about a revolution, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I purposely did not read any descriptions of the book.
You didn't?
I wanted to go in completely surprised. I'd heard things about it, but I was like, I'm not going to check to see if anybody's correct. I'm just going to read it blind and then be able to make opinions from there. Why did I do this?
They didn't find it. Somebody said they didn't find it to be intense.
Oh, well, you should be all right.
41.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Oop, oh my gosh, you just triggered me to my core.
Sorry. Like, that alarm went off without plan. See, Tomorrow does blind reads too. Like, I do them every once in a while. Like, if it's a very popular book, I would do my very hardest to not hear or watch anything about it so that I can form all of my own opinions on it, because I do read some of the very popular books, obviously, but I also read a lot of, books that we don't talk about. So, but right now I'm seriously in a fantasy kick, and I have to mentally prepare myself to hit this book since it's not fantasy at all.
I know. Well, just take it a little bit at a time. That's what I plan on doing.
Just listen to it at work and just maybe I'll have a look on my face where my coworkers see me and they're like, oh, she looks intense. And it's really me just listening to the book. Oh. Maybe I'll do that.
Just scare everyone in the office. It's fine.
Yeah, just reading, listening to an audiobook. Thanks. Oh, okay. He or she, because I don't know who this is because I can't see a picture. I read it blind. It wasn't what I expected and very much enjoyed it. Ooh.
Well, that's good. That makes me feel a lot better.
It does. I was very hesitant. Has anybody read anything by Nalo Hopkinson?
Mm-mm.
I've never heard of this
I've
person.
never even heard of this author. Nalo Hopkinson. That's what I love about these lives.
Yeah. Every time I watch one of your lives, I end up having my Goodreads open so that I can just start copying authors and stuff into it. But I have my iPad right here. Let's just Brown Girl in the Rain.
I am here for these book and author recommendations. Keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Is this like a... Hold on. This is like fantasy, science fiction, dystopia kind of vibes.
I'm here for it.
I appreciate you. You obviously know the genre of books that I like to read, so I'm just going to go ahead and want to read that one. And then I'll just read all of the books from her after that. Okay, all right. Do you have a favorite book by Nalo Hopkinson?
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Let's see. She said, I haven't either, but she said, I'm interested in reading The Salt Roads.
Wait, did I add that one?
This is really bad for my wallet, but it's okay because I'm using the library more now.
I've actually, for those who don't know, Hoopla and Cloud Library are your friends. If you have a library card, you can get free things off of them. Save your coins.
I'm recommending Hoopla to everyone.
Yeah, I've been telling everybody about that because I'm like, get your life.
Exactly.
I don't even try to do my shelves on Goodreads because
I don't bother.
I read one book, add 5 books to the TBR, so the list will never be empty.
I've talked about this before, but Goodreads low-key gives me anxiety.
Yep.
It's not an enjoyable experience for me documenting my reading on Goodreads. I feel obligated to do it because I'm on this platform and I feel like I almost have to do it at this point. But I think at some point within the next 2 to 3 years, I want to do a Goodreads free reading year where instead I just have like a reading journal where I document it personally for myself. But I just take a step back from Goodreads in that capacity because it starts to become a numbers game.
Yeah, because it'll be like, oh, you're behind 2 books. Oh, you're behind. You're like, am I behind? Oh, no, I need to like find something to read. I'm behind. Yeah.
It can get to you, especially if you're in a reading slump or just get busy or you just want to watch some Netflix and chill for a little bit.
Game of Thrones starts back in April.
Exactly.
I gotta start back on rewatching all of those. Have you read anything by Tamora Pierce? Her books are middle grade, but they're so good.
I've heard of her a lot. She is a popular middle grade fantasy author.
Well, I'm just going to leave my iPad open for a while. This is what we're doing, guys.
If you look her up and you find the books, you'll probably recognize the titles.
Let's see.
I'm very wishy-washy when it comes to middle grade.
Yeah. I haven't read middle grade in a while.
It's hard for me to pick up middle grade, but once I do, I really am glad that I did and I enjoy it.
Okay.
Monty says, for the longest, I just set my goal to 1 book.
Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe if I set it to 1, it'll show me that I achieved it like in the beginning of the year. And I won't feel so much like, because I purposely don't add the books that I'm reading to Goodreads sometimes because I just don't want to see the number. And then when I get like 5 or 6 books in, I'll be like, okay, I read that. And then, you know, they'll tell me, oh, you're ahead. I'm like, I'm ahead. I have been debating about decreasing my number.
We all play these mind games with one another. And I almost feel as if setting that goal is not really for ourselves, it's for other people to see.
Yep.
And I do not like that. And I think that is a perfect hack for Goodreads. And that is what I'm going to do from now on, is set it at 1 book.
Yep. I think I'm just, yeah, because then it could be a surprise at the end of the year of how many books I actually read. I like that idea. I also need to like work on this whole book read along thing that I told you about.
What book read along thing?
The one that I'm trying to create called Spring Cleaning.
Oh yes, please work on that more and flesh that out.
I gotta figure it out. Gotta do at least 5 prompts, right? Is that what's considered a reading challenge? At least 5 prompts?
Even if it's just 2, it's fine. Don't send yourself out. Let's see. So Monty continued, but I also don't use the goal to judge myself. Reading is a hobby, so if I decide to watch Netflix, I don't feel guilty.
True. It's just when I see the number, it messes with me. When I don't ever get on Goodreads, I do not care. But
Me
when
too.
I log on to Goodreads, I'm like, ooh, fail.
I'm also a competitive person, so I'm competing with myself, and it's never good.
Yeah. Jesus, you read a 600-page history book?
Wait, what? Who did that?
She said she's only read 3 books so far this year. To be fair, 1 book was almost 600 pages and a history book. What?
That's intense.
Bless you.
I will admit, when I was in school, I was not looking to read anything extra. There was so much reading required school reading that anything outside of that, my brain was fried.
Yeah, I didn't start reading. I used to read a lot when I was in elementary school, and I didn't start back reading until after college. I had no time.
No time.
What is this?
Whoops. My notification's going off.
See? Okay, well, I mean, that was all my thoughts for today.
I know. I think we said a lot.
Yeah, we did good. I think we did good.
I'm a little concerned because I didn't really give a disclaimer.
Oh. Well, I mean, the title was a good enough disclaimer.
Well, I feel like the title clearly made one person angry enough to dislike the video before it even went live.
Yeah. Which I cannot get over that. Like, wow.
Exactly. Wow. I'm trying to get away from this disclaimer business. It's very popular here on YouTube, and it's that place where you're trying to explain yourself before you explain yourself. And I think it's a shame that we have to put a disclaimer in front of how we think and what we think and how we feel and what we feel. And I don't like that. I honestly feel as if we have to prepare people for our thoughts and let them know, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not trying to disturb your peace. I just want you to listen to my point of view. And it bothers me because that should be already what we're doing naturally. We should be naturally going into, especially if you're subscribed to someone. It's one thing if you're trolling or if you just stumble upon a video. Okay, that's a separate thing. But if you're subscribed to someone, clearly you enjoy their content. You know something about them as a person. You're familiar with their character to some extent, to what you can be with, these small little snippets of videos. So I don't understand why we have to then put a disclaimer. I'm ranting about this now. I'm so sorry.
No, please rant.
It just bothers me. It just means that we're not really trying to listen to one another. We're not listening to hear. We're listening to respond. And that pisses me off.
Well, that's why there's no disclaimer to this video. So they take what they get from it and be on about their life. Because I forget to put disclaimers on my videos all the time. Basically, embrace it. You don't have to watch if I offend you in some way. I'm not going to cyber apologize. So just go to somebody else's channel. It is what it is.
I said what I said.
No.
We need a Troy here to make us not behave this badly.
I know. By now I'd be getting a Britney. So
I know. She's always the voice of reason. She's not here. Troy, look what you've done. Carol says, you aren't the only one frustrated with the way people take your words. I constantly see a rising aggravation with the fact people have to shield their words. Yeah.
You're gonna hate, disclaimer or not.
That's very true.
That's comment of the day. Yep, that I don't know. I think I'm at that place in my life where it's like, why do I have to, like, I can care about your feelings, have my own feelings, and not feel the need to baby yours.
Very true.
So if somebody makes a response video to this, I will look forward to watching it.
Oh my goodness.
Because you know that is their favorite thing to do right now. Response videos.
I don't mind them when they're constructive and they're adding something actually interesting and critical to the discussion. I do mind them when it's I hear everything you're saying, but, and then I'm just like, so you just contradicted yourself. You're saying you hear me, but then you're saying you're not hearing me. So which one is it?
I watched your video enough to get my points to make my video. That's what that said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, do you have any book recommendations or author recommendations? Because I would like to end with that. Oh.
Let's see. Last year, I got introduced to Danielle Clayton for The Bells, which I read that I read that out of boredom when I was in training.
Really?
Yeah, ebook, and it was surprisingly good. The sequel actually comes out this month. I think it's called The Everlasting Rose. So there's 2 books by her. What's her name? Elizabeth Acevedo. Her book Poet X. I highly recommend listening to that via audiobook. Don't even pick up the book. Listen to it via audiobook.
Amazing experience. Thank you so much for recommending the audiobook to me, because
it was literally like being in a slam poetry. Like
it was.
Because you're just like
incredible.
Yeah, it's so good. Then let me see. Obviously, if you haven't read Children of Blood and Bone, I recommend it. A Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. Dread Nation by Justina Ireland. What's another one? Obviously, I'm a huge fantasy nut, so
I know she's gonna give you all the fantasy, and I'm gonna give you more of the romance.
Yep.
Slash, maybe a touch of literary in there. I don't know.
Yeah, all of those book recommendations are starring Black people as the main character. Like, I have plenty of other ones in other categories, but those are the ones. Ooh, but an Asian inspired book that was really good. No, it's not Girls of Paper and Fire. It is Shadow of the Fox. It's a fantasy that mixes.
I've seen that book.
Tales. Highly recommend it.
I've seen the book.
Loved it.
Really?
Yep. Highly recommend it. That also has a sequel coming out in the summer. So.
And my thing is, I want also book recommendations with other POC characters. I'm looking for that as well. I remember being so hyped for When Dimple Met Rishi, which starred Indian characters with 2 Indian characters and Indian families and the culture and everything. I enjoyed that read so much. And and then what else? Crazy Rich Asians, it was popular because of the film, but I'm looking for other recommendations. I remember one of my favorite young adult series is the To All the Boys I Loved Before series, and I enjoyed it a lot because of the Asian representation. So I'm here for it all. So if you guys have other POC recommendations and authors, please send them my way.
Yeah, we need to start making lists.
We do.
So you have them, just keep putting them in either in this chat or anywhere else. Just keep listing them because they are out there. And I've recently started dipping into books where Asians are the main characters. So I'm trying to think of the name of that book that I read last year that threw me off so hard. I think it's called Before I Fall or something like that.
Before I Fall?
Yeah, it's focused on an Asian or a Korean love triangle basically after the Korean War.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it also focuses on PTSD and
Hmm.
postpartum depression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was actually, it's one of those, I thought it was going to be one of those lovey-dovey contemporaries. And it was at the end, you're just kind of like, oh, wow. Right. This is not where I was expecting
What I thought.
at all. I'm trying to think. I think that's all I can think about right now. Because those are the books that first come to my mind. I would recommend The Gilded Wolves, but the story is very convoluted and it's hard for me to explain the story, so I'm not going to recommend it.
Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it after I finally understood what was going on, because it's like world building, secret society building, and then character building. It's like Ocean's 11 meets Paris and the Bible. I don't know how to
Oh,
explain
wow.
it, because the story starts off with the idea that once the Tower of Babel was destroyed, the fragments of the Tower of Babel were hidden, and then certain houses protected the location of the Babel fragments. That's as far as I can get.
That's so intense.
And then it's like Ocean's 11 because they're also like a group of thieves trying to steal stuff.
What?
So it's a lot. I liked it. A lot of people did not. I'm not going to say it's like super amazing, but I am looking forward to a sequel.
I've heard mixed reviews. I feel like that concept is amazing, and that is a very imaginative story idea. I feel like when it comes to execution, people are very critical on execution. I will be very objective on that.
Yep. Just like, give it a shot. It's a
I
little
know.
give it a shot is what I keep saying, because I understand why people DNF'd it. It's very convoluted in the beginning because you're trying to it's told from like 4 different perspectives, and like it is so much happening in this one book.
Yeah.
And for a while you're like, whew, gotta figure out what happens next. Like,
wow.
Is he gonna die? Who's gonna die? So yeah. Highly recommend. Those are all the books I'm gonna recommend, because yeah, I've read a lot of books this year already.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up my recommendations. Let's see. I feel like my recommendations will be more authors than specific books, but I'll do my best. You talked about it a little bit, but I definitely recommend Black Enough. I feel like this is very accessible because it's popular in a certain sense, and it's by a popular author. So I feel like this is accessible for most people. This is basically a collection of short stories, and this is basically the essence of a lot of our discussion of, we are not a monolith. There are so many different stories, experiences, identities within us. We are complex individuals, and the world does not often see us as such. But this definitely is a step in the right direction, because I know that this was being talked about in various New York Times articles and other types of articles, and being blurbed and things like that. And I find that to be a very good thing. So this is a kind of they hate you give type of situation where, I'm enjoying the stories, but this is nothing new for me.
Yeah.
But it might be new for someone else.
Yeah, like my story is in that book, so.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. And another book that actually sparked a lot of the, point of this live, On the Come Up.
Oh, man.
I'm not laughing out of any type of derogatory sentiment.
No, we're not. All. From a group chat thing about On the Come Up, about how like everyone is loving it right now. I will not be reading it for a long time. I will get to it eventually.
Do you want to talk about why?
It's nowhere near the top of my list, because I'm afraid it's going to be something like The Hate You Give, and I can't. I'm just like, her books are successful for a reason. So no, I don't know if that one was written for me either. So I'll wait to hear you guys' opinions on it.
I will say someone that gave a very eloquent, thought out, intelligent, and well-balanced review of this read is Jessie from Bow Ties and Books. Their review was very, very well done, and actually made me Okay, I pre-ordered this book and I got it. When I got it, I was very excited to read it immediately. Then that excitement started to wane because I started to have flashbacks of The Hate U Give, and it started to make me less excited and less anticipatory of this read. Then I actually got the audiobook because honestly, the audiobook is what got me through The Hate U Give. Otherwise, I think I probably would have DNF'd it because of the triggering emotions that I was experiencing while reading it.
Yep.
That's just the honest to God truth. But the audiobook got me through. A lot of times audiobooks get me through more difficult reads. Something about the oratory nature of hearing a story being told out loud takes a bit away from the sting of it and the mental anguish that may or may not come with what's happening within the story. But I got the audiobook and I've listened to a little bit of it. And then, of course, I kind of stopped. But when Jesse came out with their review, it got my interest back. So I'm slowly making my way through this. I think that this is actually well done. I actually think this is better than The Hate U Give.
All right, you know, I'll consider it. If I get like 3 or 4 more people saying that, I might. But right now, it's like heart palpitations. Nope, I'm good. I don't want to take the risk right now. I'll wait to hear all of you guys' great thoughts, and then I might pick it up by audiobook.
Another one, this was part of my Blackathon TBR. This is by, I want to say she's Nigerian. Yeah, she's a Nigerian author who grew up in the UK, Leslie Inyeka Arima, and I haven't read anything else by her, but this is What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky, another collection of short stories. I find this to be very delightful. I'm not all the way through because with collections of short stories, I like to savor them and spread them out. I don't want to just read it all at once. So I'll read a short story here, read a short story there, and kind of spread it out throughout several months. But I will say I am highly enjoying this. I find this to be fantastical, whimsical, touches of magical realism, heartbreaking, touching, funny. Please read this.
So added that to my TBR.
Okay. And now come my author recommendations. So if you do not like romance, I am so sorry. These recommendations are not for you. If you're looking to get more into romance or you already like romance, we here. But some of the books that I read in the month of February that I highly enjoyed is this book called Some Odd Hour, written by an author that I had never heard of before, but the cover really caught my attention, and I'll show you why. I hope that you guys can see this. I don't know if you can, but I'll try to show it. Okay. Can you guys see this cover?
She's giving me Serena vibes.
That's why the cover caught my attention, because many times when I personally do read these romances with Black characters, there isn't a lot of representation for darker skin tones. So this cover really caught my eye for that reason alone. Yep. And I highly enjoyed this read. I found it to be not stereotypical at all and quite refreshing. And this is by Micah Edwards. I'm not going to give any synopses. I'm just going to show covers and give books because I do want to try to wrap this up at some point. Also, another book that I would recommend is a book that, if you're familiar with, let's see, Read Soul Lit, which is something that happens and has been going on every Black History Month for a couple years, which it was founded and run by Dee Dee over on Brown Girl Reading. A lot of you are probably familiar with her channel. But Unforgivable Love by Sophronia Scott. This was a great read, and this talked about the Harlem Renaissance and gave you another view into Black society at that time in America. It was a retelling of Dangerous Liaisons. If you are unfamiliar with Dangerous Liaisons, if you ever saw Cruel Intentions, that teen movie with Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Philippe, that was a retelling of Dangerous Liaisons.
Oh.
So this was a retelling of Dangerous Liaisons to give you some type of benchmark to know what I'm talking about. But this was fascinating because like we always say, we have more stories in the slavery narrative in our entire history on this soil, on this continent. So this was an interesting story about the Harlem Renaissance. It talked about a young Black woman who came from money, okay, money. Her mother founded this pomade, and her daughter was so beautiful that she put her daughter's face on the pomade, and the pomade just blew up. And so they had generational wealth because of that. She had wealth as a woman, which is very unheard of that time for any woman across the board, not just a Black woman, but even white women, women of any other nationality or race. Was very unheard of that at that time, for a woman to have that much wealth, because and it not be connected to her husband, but her own personal wealth, because with that wealth came autonomy and independence. So besides the complete fuckery that goes on in this book,
I knew there was a flip to this.
it is so entertaining. But you guys, please go read this. And to make it even better, there was a live show that went on this past Saturday on Dee Dee's channel, that there was a panel with the author, Sophronia Scott. So I highly recommend that if you read the book, you go check out that live show, or check out the live show if you're not interested in reading the book. The author is on there, and it was a great discussion. But let's see what other recommendations I have. Dun, dun, dun. Bear with me, because as y'all know, I can never remember the titles to things, so I have to pull up my Amazon here, because I read a lot on my Kindle, and I'm a member of Kindle Unlimited, which is a great way to discover a lot of indie authors, a great way to discover a lot of Black indie authors that are writing more than just romance, but you know, romance is my thing, so that's what I'm going to gravitate towards. Let's see. Where can I find my Kindle content? Oh, let me do it this way. Probably have to do it on my actual desktop. Amazon. Are you looking at recommendations as well?
I was just trying to make sure I didn't forget anything right away, because I was like, if I miss it here, I'll just give it during the next.
Yeah, if we miss anything, then we honestly will just leave it in the comments down below. And you guys are more than welcome to leave your own recommendations down below, because I'm always looking to add to my never-ending TBR, because why not?
Yep. That's why I was like, nah, I think I'm good. I think I got all of mine.
Okay, I have a few more. Let's see. What did I read in February? Oh, that's right. Okay, so another book that I read in February that I highly enjoyed is a book that was also my Blackathon TBR, and that book is Wonder by Christina C. Jones. Christina C. Jones is one of my auto-buy authors. Whatever she writes, I buy with one click. I don't even read the synopsis. I do not care. I will buy it. She is probably the queen of contemporary African-American romance. Think what's a popular, what is the name of that male author that used to write back in the 90s? Omar Tyree? Is that who I'm thinking about?
Oh, gosh. Dang.
Along those lines, but she's so much better. She is the queen to me. And I'm shocked that she doesn't have more recognition, more fanfare, because I haven't read a book by her yet where I was disappointed or let down by her depictions of the characterizations of the romance between the two characters. She does write mostly straight romance, so no gay romance, unfortunately, or anything else on the spectrum. So I actually don't have a lot of recommendations for that, unfortunately. I need to broaden my horizons. But Christina C. Jones is great. I can't say enough good things about her. Wonder was a post-apocalyptic romance, which she's never done before. She usually writes contemporary. She did it so well, and it was not over the top or cheesy or dramatic. I mean, who else can give you a post-apocalyptic type, almost dystopian type romance with two Black characters and a mostly Black community? Who?
I got nothing, because that's not a success normally.
It was a 5-star read for me. I loved it so much. I mean, I'm a concept reader as well, so when a concept is really great and it's not something I see a lot, that is automatically going to bump it up a star for me. And then if that concept is well executed, even better.
Yep.
Let's see. Another book I really enjoyed. I'm going through my list to see. Okay, this is going to be just a general author, Alexandra Warren. I've talked about her before. She wrote a series of novellas that focus on different Black couples that live in the same apartment complex / apartment building, and how they knew each other, how they ended up starting a relationship, what happened. And sometimes I feel like for some people that don't like romance, they don't want to read a 300-page book about a romance. And I don't blame you. It can get very boring. But these novellas are perfect because they're very short, to the point. It's not going to drag on and on, so you're not going to get bored. So I will say, if you are new to romance, this would be a great place to start. So the series, let's see. I don't think I read all the novellas, but it's called Building 402. That's the name of the series in general, but all the novellas fall under that title, Building 402. I highly enjoyed that. Let's see here. Oh, another book by Alexandra Warren that I highly enjoyed that was not a novella was called The Pre-Game Ritual, and it gave me Love and Basketball vibes so hardcore. So if you like that movie, then I would recommend this book. And basically it was about a Black girl who's on the basketball team, and she's really, really good. And she's a senior, she's about to graduate, and she's hoping to make it to the WNBA. And she falls for the freshman rookie on the boys basketball team. And they kind of have this, no, I wouldn't say enemies to lovers. It's more of a frenemies type vibe to them, because there's a rivalry in some ways. But there's also the fact that she's older and he's younger, and that makes her feel uncomfortable. But it was just great. It gave me all of the Love and Basketball vibes without any of the toxic masculinity.
That's hilarious.
I remember watching that movie when I was like, you know, young, and being like, oh, this is the best movie ever. And then a couple years went by and I watched it as an adult, and I was like, this was a toxic relationship. We won't go into it, because I feel like I have friends that will literally fight me if I say that.
Yeah,
they love that movie so much.
We've done enough tonight. Let's not. No.
We'll just leave it at that. And then another series I found, I just want to show the covers of these books because these covers gave me life. Let me pull these up. But this author, her name is Stephanie Nicole Norris, and the series is In the Heart of a Valentine, and it's about these brothers. They were septuplets, right? Isn't that when there's 7 babies?
Yeah, I think it's sextuplets.
Okay, but one of the brothers died. But these are Black successful men who are successful in business. They own multiple businesses. They come from generational wealth. They come from a 2-parent home.
Look, you found one.
I know.
Hold on, say the title again. I need to make sure it's added.
Look at this cover. Does it not give you life?
It does. This is terrible.
And all the covers are like this, and it's a different brother. Each book focuses on a different brother falling in love with a strong Black woman in her own right. And the best thing is these characters are over 30, which maybe some of y'all may not find that to be remarkable, but it's remarkable because seldom do we hear stories about people who are living their lives and fall in love after 30, because society considers women to be disposable after 30. We know this is true. And I highly enjoyed this book because not only did these brothers come from a wealthy family in Chicago, I want to say Chicago, where they own multiple businesses. Their father is a business mogul. There's generational wealth, a 2-parent home. Their parents are in love. There's no dysfunction. They love each other. The brothers all like each other. There's no weird rivalry. They all get along. They all have each other's back. They support one another. Each brother is different, has different interests, different businesses. Their female counterparts are strong women in their own right, One is a journalist who makes it onto an anchor position on a major news network as a Black woman. Another one is the producer of that news show. Y'all, I could go on.
She's not a side piece?
No.
Why? So this is the book that we should have recommended earlier in the discussion because it's one of our markers.
I just discovered it, but I really highly enjoyed these books. Like, I haven't read the whole series yet. I'm slowly savoring it because I found that I was just speeding my way through and I was like, whoa, girl, slow down. But if you don't like more spicy romance, if really descriptive and explicit scenes disturb you, then this might not be for you, or turn you off or make you squeamish, and this might not be for you because things they go there, okay? They go there. But I highly enjoyed these reads. I found myself just smiling all the way through. It was a great escape, and can't say enough great things. And then what else? Okay, I think I'm going to give a few more recommendations and then I'm going to be done because this is getting quite lengthy. But you guys know I love recommending books to you all. Okay, so the author that I was ranting about earlier that has a lot of negative stereotypes in her books, but her books are very entertaining. If you like more soap opera type reads that are very dramatic, but very real and depict reality, as unsavory as it may be, then you will enjoy this author. Her name is, I don't know how to, I think it's Desiree. It almost looks like Desire, but I think it's Desiree. She goes by just one name, so you already know it's about to be some shit. She doesn't even have her last name. But I will show you some of the books by her that I read this month. Let's just put it this way. I stayed up until, okay, I'm supposed to get up at 6 a.m. to get ready to be at work at 8:30 a.m. I stayed up until 3 a.m. reading this book, knowing good and well I was going to be sleep deprived, of not caring, because it was just so entertaining and I had to continue. But the first book that I read is, I'm going to show you the cover, which is very amateurish, but a lot of these indie authors don't really have a lot of money to spend on covers and things like that. But the first book I read is For the Love of ATL. You already know.
It sounds like guys in it.
Oh, it was so entertaining. It read a lot kind of like a TV script in a weird way, like a TV show, where when you find a TV show you like, and all the episodes are available on Netflix and you can just binge them. Okay. And each episode, things just get crazier and crazier, and there's twists, and you're just like, no, what? Oh my God.
See, I can't afford to read anything like that right
now. At least you're honest.
Right.
For the Love of ATL. So if you like new adult books that take place in college, this is right up your alley, because these are Black college-age students that go to school in ATL or Atlanta, various institutions. It's about the college life, the party life, the sorority and fraternity life, the crazy. It's crazy. It's hard for me to describe because the cast of characters is vast, and Desiree does an amazing job of exemplifying each character, telling their storyline, not getting storylines mixed up. She would be a great movie or TV show writer, because the way she writes these stories, there's so many different characters and so many different storylines, and yet you never feel lost. You never feel confused. You know exactly which character is which and what's going on, and you can follow along on their storyline. So I will give her that.
It's like a reality TV show for books.
It's amazing. The ratchetry.
Yeah.
So I really recommend. I read that, and then the one that kept me up all night was The Carter Boys, which I'm not going to go into detail, but if that sounds like something up your alley, if you enjoy that type of thing, then this is high quality, okay? It's not low bottom of the barrel. This is high quality.
Some of these
is a storyteller for real.
The book.
What?
Some of your descriptions make me want to just add it to my TBR just to make comments on it later.
Oh, and you will have a great time.
The cover itself. Oh my gosh. Why does this look like why does this look like one of those promotional posters for like some kind of college club? Why? What is this?
That is a perfect description. She actually I will say this. She wrote those books back in 2014, 2015. She re-released them with much more palatable covers.
Wow, that's much better than the promotion I'm looking at right now.
Girl, let me tell you what, when I saw those original covers, I was like, I'm not reading this. But then when I saw the re-release covers, I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's a different feeling. That just looks ratchet.
For people who enjoy the level of drama and ratchetry that is in TV shows like Empire and, oh gosh, Star, and what was that show that Kerry Washington was on?
Scandal.
Oh, the Scandal. But it takes place on a college campus, which is even better, with college-aged, not all of them are in college, but with college-aged Black people of all various backgrounds. Some of them are mixed race, all various backgrounds, and it's great. I highly enjoyed them. Like I said, I stayed up until 3 a.m. reading The Carter Boys because I was that entertained. It was a great escape. So if you like that type of thing, then I think that's my last recommendation. What?
I might try one of them. We'll see.
I will say, though, just to warn you, the author does break the fourth wall a lot. The stories are told in first person. So it is very, like I said, she would make a great TV writer or even a playwright. But the stories are written in first person, and the author does break the fourth wall a lot. But it's not in a cheesy, what in the urban fiction did I pick up type of thing. It's hard to explain, but it didn't bother me.
Okay.
I'll say that. Those are my recommendations for now. Y'all know I always have recommendations. And this book, if we can't say it enough, go get this book. Go get
audiobook it and get your life.
Let's class up these recommendations a little bit. I can't go down like that. The Poet X.
Like I gave you a little bit of filth. Now you go.
Let's raise the bar. And National Book Award winner? I think it's a winner. Not a finalist. I think it's a winner. Do it. The audiobook. You won't regret it if you haven't already.
The audiobook is on Hoopla and it's free, by the way.
You're welcome.
Rest of your life, one book at a time.
Oh, I have another recommendation. Brittany's like, I'm tired.
Look, I was up at 3:30 this morning, so do not mind my yawns.
Okay, 2 more. If you like Gabrielle Union, her book is really, really good. We're Going to Need More Wine. Also recommend the audiobook because she narrates it, and no one can tell her story quite like her. And then another scandalous read, honey. Scandalous. But not in a trashy way like what I showed you. This is actually quite disturbing in some parts. Is The Love and Lies of Rukhsana Ali. I've seen it a little bit being talked about, but this basically is about a 17-year-old Rukhsana Ali, and she tries to live up to her conservative Muslim parents' expectations, but she finds that hard to do. And it's a coming of age story. It's a struggle of identity versus culture versus. She's stuck between 2 cultures, basically. And there are a lot of snippets of her grandmother's diary. She's reading through her grandmother's diary, and it gives her perspective because her grandmother was married off at like 13 and had a very horrific existence in, I can't remember what Middle Eastern country, which is my bad. But let's see. Bangladesh, not even Middle Eastern, India. Bangladesh. So it's very raw, real, entertaining, heartbreaking, has its more lighthearted moments. But I listened to the audiobook and it was recommended to me by a good friend of mine who also was listening to it. And she was like, you have to read this. So I highly recommend that as well. And I'm done.
All right, let me just review the comments.
Oh my gosh, I haven't seen the comments in so long.
Let's see. I don't even know where to start because I don't remember where we stopped. Oh, everybody says we don't need disclaimers.
Well, that's nice.
There's a new book by Lauren Wilkinson's entitled American Spy that takes place in the 1980s, and the character is a Black woman intelligence officer from the FBI. Adding that to my TBR.
Yes, as we speak.
Good look. Let's see. A Song of Blood and Stone by Elle Penelope is pretty interesting when you delve into the high fantasy world. Look at y'all giving me books to read.
I know. This is good.
I do not know how to pronounce your name, Lukian. We basically already talked about that, but in short, we just don't care.
Hysterical.
And thank you, Alicia. We're actually missing one of our lovelies. She'll be back for the book club
live. On the 24th.
On the 24th. I'm adding these books to my TBR. But yeah, does anybody have any
somebody had a oh, we already answered that. We don't care.
Yeah. The hate you give is done for us.
We moved on.
Yeah.
We had to. And it's not in a negative way. It's just kind of
it wasn't for us.
Money and marketing, you know. Money moves. As Cardi B would say, making money move.
You were just ratchet.
That's what the publishing industry is doing. They're making money moves, honey. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, many of the time, it does not include us. So we got to make our own money moves. Okay. Okay.
All right. I found my books. I'm good now. Okay.
You have? I feel like the later it goes, the more ratchet I become. So I feel like we got...
Yeah, it's called delirium. Like, woo. As we'll have more chats like this, don't worry.
We will definitely. We've talked about this and how we want to do this more and just talk about whatever is going on at the moment in the community, and also just share our thoughts and definitely book recommendations. I feel like there aren't enough book recommendation videos, and I really enjoy those. I think people take book hauls as book recommendation videos.
Yeah.
But it's not always helpful for someone to just hold up a book and say, and I bought this, and I bought this, and I bought this. So I like this format because we can discuss and we can talk and we can communicate with y'all, and you guys can give your recommendations and talk about what you're reading.
Yep. As a good I mean, that's all I have. I'm reading the comments to see if anybody has anything else. Another Kim Whitley, The Delusion of Cinderella.
Add another, The Delusion of Cinderella. I gotta go add that one.
I kind of like the title, so I'm gonna add that too.
I'm all for a fairy tale retelling, honey.
Yep, basically.
I'm here for it. If you say fairy tale retelling, say no more.
Yeah, look now, I don't do romance, so y'all know I'm gonna have a lot of feelings about these books.
I am honestly going to make you read a romance one of these days just so we can discuss it, because I need to know your thoughts. As a non-romance reader, I would need to know.
Like, I would love all books to just exclude romance altogether, and I would be a happy person. So
that's hysterical.
We can totally do a whole talk about that one day.
I'm the complete opposite. I'm reading a book and I'm like, so there's no... Okay.
I get very excited when I get through a story and I'm like, so nobody is macking on nobody? It's just so beautiful. Just focusing on the story. So weird, so lovey. Just, this is fantastic.
I will say I would like more positive representations of women in female friendships, as we were discussing earlier, because even when I went through all of the books I read in February, I did not bump into one where it, triggered my memory and I was like, oh, this had an amazing female friendship. Although, actually, there was one. The ones I was talking about before, Stephanie Nicole Norris with the brothers, the septuplets. I will say that the women in that story, not all of them were originally friends, but as they got together with the brothers, they became friends. And they were all very supportive of one another for the most part. But when you guys say that, I'm thinking more of like a Sex in the City or like a Girlfriends, exactly. And I cannot think of one. And that's very sad. I think that would be pretty epic. If anyone could think of one, definitely leave it in the comments. But that would be amazing. I would have the time of my life reading a book like that. Time of my life. I think we're good.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Thank you everyone who came to watch. If you're just tuning in right now, definitely backtrack it and catch up on the first half. We were a lot angrier in the first half. We are much nicer people now.
Yep. Oh man.
So if you want to catch the tea, you're gonna want to go back and watch the first half. This will be posted on my channel, so no worries. And yeah, we will catch you in the next one that we do like this. We'll make sure that we announce it in ample time for people to reserve their evening and come join us.
Love you guys.
Bye guys. Good night.
Night.
Brittany's information is down below. Go check out her channel. She is a jack of all trades. Love it. Subscribe to her. I will go ahead and put Troy's channel down below as well. She couldn't make it tonight, but go support her as well. And more than likely, the next time you'll see us, plus Troy, will be on the 24th. We haven't decided on a time yet.
Nope.
But we will.
The announcement.
Yes. And we will be discussing She Would Be King for this month's book of the month for our book club, a seat at the table book club. So join us on the 24th. We will give you ample time to know what time to be there, and we will see you all then. Bye.
Bye, guys.